Part 6, let's now consider a potpourri of some passages that folks will sometimes use to justify their divorce and remarriage to another spouse. Hagar, Genesis 16, verse 3. After Abram had lived 10 years in the land of Canaan, Abram's wife, Sarai, took Hagar, the Egyptian, her maid, and gave her to her husband, Abram, as a wife. And some folks will click on this right here and say, now look here. Hagar was Abram's wife. He is later told to send her away, in effect divorce her, so that justifies my divorce. Well, let's look at that phrase, as his wife. Wife in Hebrew is the word Isha, Strong's number 802. And according to the Complete Word Study Dictionary, while this word predominantly means woman or wife, it is further used in various ways. Those able to bear children, a widow, an adulteress, female children, or female animals. A concubine is a woman who cohabits with a man without legally being married to him. In the Dictionary of the Old Testament Proper Names, Alfred Jones writes on page 136 of Hagar was the one whom she, Sarah, gave to be a concubine to Abraham or Abram. Brown Driver Briggs, Hebrew Dictionary, speaks of Hagar as being Sarah's Egyptian slave girl, Abraham's concubine, Ishmael's mother. Question: did Yahweh ever refer to Hagar as a wife of Abraham? Never. And in Genesis 21, but God or Elohim said to Abraham, do not be distressed because of the lad, speaking of Ishmael, and your maid. Yahweh called her a maid, according to this translation. Whatever Sarah tells you, listen to her, for through Isaac your descendant shall be named. And of the son of your maid, speaking again of Ishmael, I'll make a nation also, because he is your descendant. What about the foreign women of Ezra 9 and 10? Ezra 10:10, then Ezra the priest took up and said to them, you have been unfaithful and have married foreign wives, adding to the guilt of Israel. Now here the Jews had returned from Babylon. They were to stay a pure race, not intermingle and marry those they had been told not to marry and intermingle with, but they had done it. And in verse 11, now therefore, Ezra continues, make confession to Yahweh, God of your fathers, and do his will, and separate yourselves. He doesn't say divorce. Separate yourselves from the peoples of the land and him. Who were these foreign women? Ezra 9 verse 1. Now when these things had been completed, the princes approached me, speaking of Ezra, saying, the people of Israel and the priests and the Levites have not separated themselves from the peoples of the land, according to their abominations, those of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Jebusites, Amorites, Moabites, Egyptians, and Amorites. And the foreign women of Ezra 9 and 10 were those referred to in Deuteronomy 7 verses 1 through 3. When Yahweh your God brings you into the land where you are entering to possess it, and clears away many nations before you, the Hittites, Gezerites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites, and when Yahweh your God delivers you before them, and you defeat them, you shall utterly destroy them. Now keep that phrase in mind. You shall utterly destroy them. You shall make no covenant with them, and show no favor to them. Furthermore, you shall not intermarry with them. That's the ones he's speaking of there in Ezra. For you shall not give, nor shall you give your daughters to them, nor shall you take their daughters for your sons. The foreign women, well, hey, if we want to be consistent and allege that, hey, we can put away a foreign wife, a pagan wife, because she's not a believer, then go ahead and be consistent and utterly destroy her, if you want to be stupid and silly big time. Well, can you ever find any Hittites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, Jebusites today? No. So that passage is not applicable for us today on this divorce and remarriage issue. Verse 19. They pledged to put away their wives And being guilty, they offered a ram of the flock for their offense. In other words, these guys realized they shouldn't have married those women. Well, that word put away is Strong's 33:18, yatzah, the Hebrew word, and it means to go or go out, bring out. And it's not the word for divorce, shalak, as in Deuteronomy 22:19 and 29 and Malachi 2:16 and Deuteronomy 24:1, Isaiah 50, Jeremiah 3. It's a different word. It's not the word for divorce. Verse 15. Very interesting. Only Jonathan, the son of Asherel, and Yahaziah, the son of Tikvah, opposed this, and Meshullam and Shabbatai and the Levite supporting them. Well, hey, why did these guys oppose this plan? What did they know? I submit they knew something about that Gibeonite covenant, and once you enter into covenant with somebody, you don't separate, even though it was a bad deal. What did Yahweh say about divorcing them and sending them away, those foreign women? Absolutely nothing. He doesn't speak in that passage. Exodus 18 is interesting along the same line of reasoning, speaking about Jethro and his recommendation for Moses when Moses was so burdened down with all the litigation taking part among the sons of Israel shortly after they'd come out of the land of out of the land of Egypt as slaves. In Exodus 18, verse 22, Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, says, "Let them," speaking of many people that Moses was to assign to be judges, etc., "let them judge the people at all times. And let it be that every major dispute they will bring to you, but every minor dispute they themselves will judge. So it will be easier for you, and they will bear the burden with you." Yahweh never spoke up in this passage, never said a thing about it. Yahweh had coming on the scene in Exodus 19 and 20 the 10 Commandments and his word and ways for people to follow, and if they would follow those ways, you wouldn't need judges and lawyers and litigation anyhow. And in verse 23, if you do this thing, and God so commands you, and by the way, he never did, then you'll be able to endure. And Moses later said, man, I cannot endure this bunch. And all these people will go to their place in peace. Question, did they go to their place in peace? No, feuding and fighting all the way. So bad news when we take action that sounds good, looks good on its surface, but Yahweh never says a word about it. Deuteronomy 22, verses 28 through 29 is interesting for some folks too. If a man finds a girl who is a virgin, who is not engaged, and seizes, and that's the Hebrew word tafaz, which literally means manipulates, and guys, you know what I'm talking about when we're young, and would manipulate the girl, so to speak, with our so-called lovely attention, manipulates her and lies with her, and they are discovered, in other words, they had sex, then the man who lay with her shall give to the girl's father 50 shekels of silver. By the way, silver again pictures redemption. And she shall become his wife, because he has violated her. And here's something very interesting. He cannot divorce her all his days. So my question for you is this. Guys, did you have sex with your wife before marriage? If so, and you want to live by Torah, then you can't divorce her all of your days. Pure and simple. And then, of course, there's no exceptions for divorces anyhow. Next, in Part 7, we'll consider the last part and ways about how to rebuild or build a family and a marriage.